Mysteries of History Revealed. Dinosaurs to Extraterrestrials. Jeremy Auldaney. Copyright 2014. All rights reserved. And this is number 13 in this series. And we're starting on page 72. I like to look where other people would not think of looking. I went outside of the fence at Odessa meteor craters and found masses of rusty exfoliated iron masses. They were apparently meteorites weathering on the surface into oxidized fragments. I bought a Nantam meteorite from China, which became crumbly and tended to gradually fall apart, exfoliate, which was similar. Then I came across a round area about 35 feet in diameter where there was no brush growing, surrounded by bushes. It looked like meteor craters I had seen in deserts where sand had filled them. There was even a central upthrust. Then I found an iron oxide in the sand, which looked like some iron oxide meteorites I had bought that came from Australia. I also found a knife-shaped piece of iron. These iron fragments do not look like any man-made objects, so I assume they are meteorites. Iron meteorites can have odd shapes. At the museum in San Bernardino, I saw a 10-foot iron meteorite shaped like a donut. Then I went outside the fence to the west and was amazed when I found a crater with a rim about 15 to 20 feet in diameter. I then found another and another. I was very excited. I also found some iron meteorite fragments here and there. Why did they only discuss the main crater? Why did they say there are 5 craters and give no information on them? I'm now searching satellite maps of Odessa, Texas meteor crater for this book to determine what the truth is about what I observed. I discovered that the main crater is 550 feet in diameter, surrounded by craters 75 foot, 58 foot, 33 foot, down to about 12 feet, next to the main crater outside the fence. Then there are over 13, 1/2 to 1/3 the diameter of the main crater. You see over 25 larger craters, an average of 400 feet in diameter, cover about 10 miles around the main crater, one approximately every mile apart. Most of these are northwest of the main crater, the same as the concentration of meteorite fragments. Then I found one large crater at Silver Lake, Texas, which is 3,500 feet in diameter, about 150 miles north of Odessa, a crater. I could find no geologic information on this lake, but finally found that they claim it is a man-made lake. I don't know if it is a meteorite crater, but there are 2 others nearby. They could be buried craters. One crater is 450 feet in diameter, about 2,250 feet southwest of Silver Lake. Then another about 500-foot crater is 5,500 feet south of the lake. Since all the solid bodies in the solar system, except for Jupiter's satellite Io, and of course Jupiter and other liquid planets, are covered with hundreds, and that includes the satellite of Io is a solid body, covered with hundreds of craters, which include asteroids and satellites around planets. Then there must be just as many that have hit the Earth. Of course, the atmosphere of Earth has burned up most of them, so they don't reach the ground, unlike the satellites on some planets. But there should be a lot more craters on Earth than we see. Where are they? Now, just recently I saw an article where they talked about Venus, and Venus has a very thick atmosphere and also has storms, and they believe there's also liquid carbon dioxide had flowed in a liquid form on the surface, creating canyons and lakes. Well, if it has as much erosion, apparently it does, as the Earth, as well as a thicker atmosphere than Earth has, then it should not have any more meteorites, craters than Earth. But Venus has lots of meteor craters, and it looks a lot like Mars. So this indicates that the Earth there's something happened to the Earth that didn't happen to the other planets. And of course that was Noah's worldwide flood. Of course, the worldwide flood erased or buried most of them, like the Monson crater in Iowa. At this time, there are now 174 confirmed impact craters on Earth. Some are buried craters. And there are many more that have not been discovered because they are in sedimentary rock below the surface, laid down during the flood. I heard that the Monson crater was an impact during the Paleocene, no, it was an impact during the Cretaceous, at the end of the Cretaceous. But the odd thing about it, one research paper in a science magazine said that the rocks from this, the particles, settled in the Eocene several million years later. Which is kind of odd, and so they came to the conclusion that the Manson crater could not have been Cretaceous after all, because they thought maybe it was the same time as Chicxulub, and so they decided no, it must have been in the Eocene. But this indicates that the Cretaceous and Eocene are connected. They are very close together. They're not millions of years apart like they're claiming. Since God created everything perfect in the beginning, we must assume there were no meteorite impacts between Eden and the beginning of the flood. This means there were several impacts which triggered the flood, then others during the flood, and many after the flood. Only post-flood impacts left clear craters on the surface. Since the Bible shows the Earth is only 6,000 years old, it means there have been a lot more recent impacts than established scientists have told us about. In fact, due to the recent increase in boliths and impacts, television news has informed us scientists are beginning to think impacts are more common than they thought. This is an understatement. Bible and science proves mega asteroid impacts are recent and common. Creation scientists would say there is much more cosmic destruction because all craters with little erosion show they were post-flood, which means there are over 174 very large impacts in the last 4,000 years. These include Papagay in Siberia, Russia, which is the same size as Chicxulub, at 112 miles in diameter. Those older impacts that triggered the flood no more than 5,000 years ago include Vanderfort in South Africa, which is 187 miles in diameter. Sudbury in Canada is 155 miles. Sudbury is where we get all of our nickel for our nickels. It's actually meteorite. Your coins are meteorite. Chicxulub supposedly killed the dinosaurs, is 112 miles in diameter. Mankugan, Canada, 62 miles, and there are others. Compare this to Meteor Crater at only 3/4 of a mile, creating total devastation over 5 miles in all directions. The largest unconfirmed crater is in Australia, known as Mapkis. Is 373 miles in diameter. The smallest of the craters is at least 13 miles in diameter. In other words, almost 20 times the size of Meteor Crater. Ever since scientists claimed that an asteroid killed the dinosaurs, I realized that this evidence was misinterpreted and misdated. As a creation researcher, I knew that most of the fossiliferous strata were deposited about 5,000 years ago by the flood, containing dinosaurs. Since then, I have been finding evidence that there was another worldwide cataclysm after the flood, and meteorites might have had something to do with it. Many occult writers have attributed this to the legend of Atlantis, while atheistic skeptics and some creationists have ignored it. Over 500,000 craters ignored by science. A look at evidence of a Pleistocene-ending asteroid, quest for Atlantis, at atlantisquest.com. Asteroid HTML is the reference. April 1, 2013. They say. Was Atlantis destroyed by an impact? Quote, it is perfectly reasonable to conclude that if such a cataclysm occurred about 10,000 to 15,000 BP, legends would be told to relate the horror to future generations. Otto Heinrich Muck, a German engineer who called his book Alles über Atlantis, which is all about Atlantis, published in the German language in 1976, says that in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of the United States, quote, the two impact craters are adjacent and similar in size and shape. Both are roughly oval. In both, the major axis of the ellipses run from northwest to southeast. This would suggest that the objects that struck like cosmic shells and gouged out these deep sea holes came either from the southeast or northwest. This hypothesis was supported by the fact that there were highly magnetic areas concentrated in the southeastern portions of each of the bays. Melton and Shriver, 1933, end quote. These craters have the same orientation as the Carolina Bays, pointing to the same origin as high-angle impact craters, and since they are underwater, they could not have formed by water erosion, as is claimed for most of those on the dry land. News item. The Carolina Bays. New evidence points to a killer comet. This is HamptonRoads.com. Home, and it's under news. Quote, the markers include charcoal and heavy metals, plus the element iridium. Iridium, found in a worldwide soot layer deposited 65 million years ago, was key to linking dinosaur extinctions to the Chicxulub impact crater under the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. Other markers found in the Carolina Bays include spiky glass-like pieces of carbon, fullerenes, or also called buckyballs, which are round objects that resemble soccer balls because of their six-sided pattern, with helium-3, the author's note, trapped in the balls, which, by the way, is only found in space, an isotope not found naturally on this planet, and hollow balls of carbon. The clincher, as far as West is concerned, is nanodiamonds. Tiny diamonds. Diamonds found in the bays and at Clovis archaeological sites, where the Clovis people lived, which hunted with atlatls and Clovis tips, which killed mammoths and mastodons during the late Pleistocene. Across the country are rounded and strangely shaped because they were created within seconds, unlike slow-formed diamonds in the ground. There is, West said, no way to explain it other than an impact. Such diamonds have been found in one other location on Earth, in an oil field surrounding the Chicxulub crater, end quote. Notice they're finding these evidence of meteorite impact in Clovis sites, both those containing Pleistocene mammal bones and also human sites of the Clovis people, as well as these Carolina Bays, which are in the same horizon. Also, diamonds are found under Papagay asteroid impact crater in Siberia, Russia, which is the same size as Chicxulub crater, but is dated as Eocene. The Papagay impacted terrestrial graphite formed from the carbon created by plants during the flood. This carbon was transformed into large, unusually hard industrial diamonds by the tremendous pressure. This is additional evidence that the Eocene is post-flood because carbon was a post-flood deposit. Russia's Papagay meteor crater linked to mass extinction. This is a reference. LiveScience.com. June 13th, 2014. Papagay crater is one of the 10 biggest impact craters on Earth, and in 2012, This is excerpt from the article. Earlier dated attempts had pinned Papagay's impact age at 35.7 million years. I don't see how they can be that precise. A 0.7, you know, how ridiculous. Quote, researchers from the University of California, Los Angeles precisely dated rocks from beneath the Papagay impact crater in remote Siberia to the Eocene epic mass extinction that occurred 33.7 million years ago. Papagay crater is one of the 10 biggest impact craters on Earth. End quote. Why didn't this post-flood impact produce the mass extinction by inundating the continents under the ocean like the one that triggered the flood? Because there was no more water under pressure inside the Earth to flood the dry land called fountains of the deep. This is why God said he created a boundary that the ocean could not cross again. Next time, he will use fire. Carolina bays are circular to oval depressions with a wide range of area and depth, are a very common feature in coastal Delaware, Maryland, New Jersey, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, and north central Florida. This comes from Prouty, Prouty, P-R-O-U-T-Y, 1952, and Kakzorowoski, 1977. They are also common in the Gulf of Mexico coastal plain within Texas and southwest Louisiana. These depressions vary in size from 0.4 to 3.6 kilometers, which is a quarter of a mile to 2 miles in diameter, within Harris County, Texas, have raised rims which are about 0.65 meters, which is about 2 feet high. A carbon-rich layer produced by massive fires has been associated with a sudden cooling called the Younger Dryas and the end of the Clovis culture, which hunted large Pleistocene mammals. They have documented and the finding of magnetic grains with iridium, magnetic spherules, charcoal, soot, carbon spherules, nanodiamonds, fullerenes containing extraterrestrial helium-3, and Carolina Bay craters at the Dryas boundary, fossil sites with Pleistocene animal bones, and at Clovis archaeological sites across America. The information above comes from the abstract Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, which is pnas.org, Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences by R.B. Firestone, 2007, cited by related articles, October 9th, 2007, evidence for an extraterrestrial impact 12,900 years ago that contributed to the megafaunal extinctions and the Younger Dryas cooling, creating the Ice Age. Written by a team of 26 scientists who concluded, we propose that one or more large, low-density, authors note, carbonation stony, ET objects exploded over North America, partially destabilizing the Laramide ice sheet and triggering the YD cooling, the shock wave, thermal pulse, and event-related environment effects. In other words, extensive biomass burning and food limitations contributed to the end-Pleistocene megafaunal extinctions and adaptive shifts among the Paleo-Americans in North America, end quote. It has been estimated that there are 500,000 craters over 500,000, and many are larger than Meteor Crater. They average between a quarter of a mile, the size of Meteor Crater, less than Meteor Crater, a quarter of a mile, to 2 miles in diameter. I'll continue this in our next section. This is number 13, and we'll be continuing next time. Thank you.